after the call as well. I'm going to set a timer, which is why my eyes are not on the screen. I'm going to set a timer to kind of keep things moving along. But we're going to do our best to get you out of here in 45 or 50 minutes. And we're really excited that you're able to join us today. So we've got a couple more people. It looks like still coming on. So I'm trying to stretch this out. But I'd like to go ahead and get started with brief introductions. We're going to keep this quick. I'm Jay Sedgwick from WebbMason Marketing. We've done this a few times now in our community and retail banking series. And today's really exciting. We're talking about video. And Courtney, who you know, and she's helped host these webinars with me in the past, Courtney Scott, she also works for WebbMason. Courtney and I are lucky enough to be in the company of a 2-time Emmy winner, Steve Bamonti, and he is our resident video expert. And so, Steve, if you want to give a quick little introduction, we'll go ahead and get started.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. My company is called Generation Media, and I do have the pleasure of working with WebbMason on some of their projects. I got my start in broadcast television for Hearst TV. They're headquartered in New York, but they have TV stations all over the country. So it's a good chance that everybody on here today, at one time or another, has watched a Hearst television station. I did a lot of work for them out of their Baltimore TV station for about 15 years. And it was funny, when we were talking about this, Jay asked me to talk about a little introduction. I thought, yeah, after 15 years at Hearst, I started Generation Media because I wanted to get a little more hands-on with the creative part of what I do and get more into the writing, lighting, editing, and the lights, camera, and the action of production, and less of the management. I said, yeah, for like 4 or 5 years I've been doing that. I did the math, and it's actually, this June will be we're actually just passing year 7. So it's been flying by, and it's been really exciting. So
we've got some footage from your first time behind the camera. I'm sorry, in front of the camera. In front of the camera in this case. I want to share this little video with everybody.
Yeah. So Jay mentioned 2 Emmys, but my real claim to fame is I think in 1982 I appeared on Romper Room, which is a show some of you may know, and there I am with the bad brown pants and the velour shirt, which I guess was the style at the time. You can see we did some pretty heavy exercises, and I did my very first on-camera stunts. I do my own stunts, some tumbling, and I kind of remember that day. I was pretty young, but I do know from that day, my parents went out and bought their very first VCR just to be able to record that. So when I found that tape in their attic a couple of years ago, I said, okay, I got to get this transferred to digital, at least get a clip of it. So we talked about that earlier. Jay said, you got to share it. Okay, and there it is.
So home movies, right? I mean, we're big on home movies here, and we always joke around. Courtney's very young, and I'm very old, and Steve's kind of in the middle. But hopefully people that are participating, they remember Romper Room. It was a big deal in my childhood. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Courtney. And before we get serious and we start talking about video marketing and how community bankers and retail bankers can benefit from storytelling through video, Courtney, I got the impression there's a lot of summer planning going on in your life, because all the trivia questions were focused around the summer. So that's good.
Yes, I want to get everyone in the mood of summer, traveling, family time, all that good stuff.
All right, so it's summertime. Let's give away this summer hat as our first prize. So if you want to go ahead and start with our first trivia question.
Cool. So I'll read it first, and then I will make it go live so you can answer the question. The question is, which of these 5 items are sold the most during the summer? So I'm gonna give everyone about 15 seconds to answer.
Don't know if certificates of deposit are seasonal or not, but that sounds like a pretty good answer.
Any time of year.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're good all year long.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna give about 5 more seconds. All right. So, Jay, I'll start with you. What do you think it is?
I'm gonna go with my guns. I'm gonna stick with certificates of deposit. I think that's a good one.
Okay. And Steve, how about you?
I think sunglasses was one of them. I'm gonna go with sunglasses.
Sunglasses? Okay. It's actually swimsuits.
Wow.
are the most sold during the summer? And I see only one person answered that correctly. So I'll leave my email in the chat. If you can email me your address, we're going to send you your prize.
Yeah, and I think that if you could go ahead and send in the chat who it was that identified swimsuits, that would be great. And we're gonna probably get like a bunch of people. I'm not sure if Courtney, if you can see the people who responded, or maybe you can tell who voted for which item, but I can't see it on my screen.
No, I can't see it at the moment.
All right. So if you voted for swimsuits, you were correct. And then Courtney, before we start, did you want to offer up like one of the chat questions so we can get people interactive that way?
Yep. So I'm going to start with one question, and that is, what city are you joining us from? And we just want to make sure everyone is interactive in the chat. You can ask questions throughout the webinar. I'll be monitoring it so we can get everyone acclimated. So we have someone from York, Pennsylvania. Nice.
So I think Courtney, New York City.
My home originally from Queens.
Steve's hometown. Carroll, Iowa.
Nice.
Northern Virginia.
It's our backyard here.
Yeah, it's right over the river. And Courtney, where are you right now?
I am in Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore. I'm in Frederick, Maryland. And Steve, you're in Frederick as well, correct? Yeah, so we're just over the river from Northern Virginia and just down the road from Baltimore. So thank you, everybody, for participating, and thank you, everybody, for jumping on. Let me get serious for 2 seconds. And Steve, start with you. What types of videos should bankers use to tell their story? What are the most effective video styles or video types or just video categories?
There are so many things that you can do, and I often say there's no one formula or one answer for everyone. If I've learned anything in my time in broadcast TV, it's everything needs to be produced in one way or another. It doesn't mean you have to have a giant film crew for everything that you do video-wise, but there needs to be some strategy and thought behind what you do. But I think what we found in some of the videos produced for the banking industry is there are kind of several categories you can go with. There's kind of first that more polished, highly produced piece that is researched and tested, and maybe it really speaks to your brand strengths and what you want to talk about. But then as you kind of move forward, you think to yourself, well, for a community bank, we're going to be involved in the community. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening that we're going to be a part of, whether it be events or other things. And that lends itself to a different type of video, something that isn't as much a big polished produced piece, but something a little more done in-house, we call it, or homegrown, Jay. I don't know what term WebbMason has for it, but those are things that are sometimes recorded, with something like this, which is your phone, and how you, just because it's done in that manner doesn't necessarily mean it's an afterthought as far as production goes. There are ways to package those things. And then I think third, and not that these three are all you should consider, but testimonials could be really powerful in a lot of ways. And one thing I've seen this year, especially with some of the banking customers that I work with, is, in the year of PPP loans and grants and just navigating this whole tax world this year and how this all works. I know here in the state of Maryland, that kind of stuff is delayed and a lot going on there. There are a lot of great stories to tell from people who probably feel really strongly about, how your bank helped them and what that means to them. I think trying to tap into those is really important. And that's kind of a mid-ground between your super highly produced piece and something you do, in-house with your staff. It kind of falls in a mid-range production there that you want to capture it, you want to get it all the story told, but you necessarily want to do it quickly and topically.
I think that something you said that resonates with me, and it's something that I share with my clients as well, is storytelling and personalizing and having that connection or that heart to heart, right? Maybe in the 90s or even in the early 2000s, it was more about locations and buildings and real estate and maybe products. But lately, I think a lot more it comes down to people. Who works at the bank? What does the bank support? What does the bank believe in? What is their mission? Why are they there to serve the community, right? So I think to your point, we're seeing a lot more personalization, a lot more humanization, if you will, if that's the word, humanization of these videos. And I think that's something that we can share with people on the webinar. Those are things that I think resonate more with viewers. And if social media has taught us anything, if I post a video about my cat, or if I post a video about a baby, it's going to get way more attention than if I post a video about my car or about my new phone, right? Because it's human interest stories that resonate and are more popular. And you talked about grassroots and organic or homegrown. Tell us the balance in your opinion. Should we be using a high-end, mass-produced, big-budget video, or should we be using the grassroots, the TikTok, the homegrown video, or is there a sweet spot? Is there a combination for most banks?
Yeah, I think there could be a sweet spot there. You know, I think to play off of what you said, I tell people all the time, you know, if you want to stand out, right, start by just stand for something. Like, what are you about? You know, some of the most successful social media accounts and the ones that, you know, you hear about, like, you know, Wendy's and Taco Bell, some of the national brands, they really speak with a singular voice. You know, they're not talking from the corporate Wendy's office. It's literally the, you know, Wendy, the character, you know, we know it, you know, we know it's that singular voice that they use. I don't know if anyone has checked out like Wendy's Twitter. They have a little bit of an attitude, but it's really funny. And it really resonates with people. They don't talk about hamburgers and deals and stuff like that. They just create a personality for themselves. So when you talk about, you know, how to produce those types of videos, you know, there are wildly successful people all over social media who are not doing major, highly produced pieces all the time. But, you know, when I was working in television, and I started working on my own 7 years ago, and I did a lot of stuff for television and sometimes local television, stuff that would just air, you know, involved here in Maryland or just in Baltimore or just in Frederick. And I would often tell those smaller customers, all you need to do is make sure you look like you belong on television, because your ad is going to be a standard TV commercial. It's going to be around in between a Coca-Cola ad and a Southwest commercial. You need to look like you belong there. And there are ways to do that. And I think today, it's not as much as, you know, belonging there in a production sense. It's just being watchable. You know, there are things I watch. I was talking to Jay about this. I'm an awful golfer, but I really like it. And I'm going to, as they call it, YouTube University to get better at golfing. And I like this one guy's videos. They're really helpful. They're not super highly produced, but they're always clear. I can hear him. I can understand what he's getting at. And they're all packaged in a way where I know it's one of his videos right off the bat. So I think if you're going to produce something in-house, video-wise, you know, when you work with a company like WebbMason, you have that big strategy. And you think, okay, part of our strategy are these big, highly produced pieces that are going to run a couple of times a year, we're going to produce a couple of times a year, and they're going to run a lot of paid media. But we also have all these things that are just going to pop up. We want to be in a position to do something with them. But what do we do with them? Do we just post them up there with some explanation or some corporate language? Or do we try to make a voice for ourselves and continuously do that? And the way you do that is by, you know, posting those pieces up there. And then I think packaging them a little bit. I think, you know, a little intro and what kind of music are we using? What are these things going to be every month or every week or whenever they come up? I think that's part of like the overall strategy to think about.
Okay, great. I want to ask another question, but before we do that, I want to give away the limited edition, very rare insulated coffee thermos. So Courtney, if you want to ask another trivia question, please.
Alrighty, so according to the U.S. agricultural statistics, what 3 fresh fruits outsell others during the course of the summer? Give everyone about 15 to 20 seconds to answer this. Everyone's getting it correct. Nice, nice, nice.
I don't even know what a loquat is.
I know what a loquat is. I added that, and in the loquat, it's like a really cool type of like almost like an orange or a pear. But anyway,
Yep. So everyone answered correctly. So everyone, Jay, I hope you have enough tumblers for everyone.
oh, these are rare. I mean, they're limited edition. I don't know, but hopefully we have at least three. Hopefully we have at least three of those.
Yeah. So the answer is peaches, watermelon, and tomatoes. That's the answer.
Have we decided are tomatoes a fruit? Have we decided that yet? Is it officially a fruit now? So we're not calling them vegetables anymore?
No.
All right. Well, that's good. So we got a little bit of fruit knowledge. Summertime is New Jersey tomatoes and New Jersey corn, right? Like going up to the beach, for our friends in New York City, coming down to the beaches in Jersey, people in Philly, anybody from Philly on, my daughters go to school in Philly. We're in Maryland, we go up, and man, Jersey tomatoes and Jersey corn, and that's summertime. So I'm glad you put that together. Thank you, Courtney.
No problem.
All right, so this is an easy one. This is a softball, Steve, and I know there's lots of directions you can go with this. So I'm just going to ask this simple question: what's the best way, if they're not already using video as part of their marketing strategy? Steve, what's the best way for people to get started?
I mean, I think the best way to get started, you don't need to immediately go out and invest in something like this. You have an amazing tool to capture photos and video right here, and everyone on your staff does. And I think with some, basic training, again, the YouTube University or some help from someone like me or from WebbMason, that people don't necessarily hire a company like mine because I have a really expensive camera. It's the knowledge and the experience of knowing where to put it so things look good. And that's something that people can be taught pretty quickly, especially when you're putting content on social media. So I think that's a good way to get started. But I think, and I can't really give anyone a strategy for their exact situation right here because there's no one size fits all. But overall, I think it's more important to know what you're trying to say and what you're trying to accomplish with every piece of video, rather than just throwing tons of content at people. Understanding what your core brand and message is going to be and what it needs to be, and then deciding, okay, what assets do we have? What have we recorded in the past that we can reuse? Some of you out there may have a library of content or some things you've produced in the past that can be repackaged, be redone, be reused. What's coming up that we want to capture ourselves and have put together there. So, that's kind of something to consider. But I think, this is a great starting point for a lot of people. And there are some, and I don't know, Jay, if you want to start talking about the real nuts and bolts of it yet, but I can get into some of the technical stuff and pitfalls and things, so we can save that for a little bit later.
Yeah, I think we tease that up, and if we have time at the end, maybe we talk about that a little bit more. But I like what you said about using existing content. Yep. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I run into this all the time. So we've created some content for their website. We've created some content for some marketing collateral. We've created some content for social. So there's rich assets, right? Rich media assets available for our banking clients. So you would recommend repurposing some of that and putting maybe the same copy or the same content, or maybe even some of the same visuals into a video.
I'm doing it right now. I'm working on a new campaign, and we are taking some of the language, some of the video that we shot a few years ago, and depending, we just started it right now, but we got more to go down the line. And as we get to that point, we may pull old testimonials up to see if what they said still fits in kind of our story right now. Why not reuse those things?
Okay, so if the content exists, or I'm sorry, if the existing content fits in the consistent narrative, you've got gold. You don't have to repurpose it. I'm sorry, you can repurpose it. You don't have to redo it.
Yeah, of course you can repurpose it. Yeah, especially where you're putting stuff on social media. If you have stuff that's a little bit older, and it wasn't shot with the newest cameras and that kind of setup. I mean, there's a lot you can hide on social media as far as production technique.
So let's talk about that a little bit. in our experience, working with bankers, there's a lot of emphasis on taking advantage of the social media challenges, the social media challenge. And I think that one of the things we recommend to them is it doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be right out of a Hollywood studio, especially if it's going to be 30 seconds or 15 seconds and it's going to live on a Facebook page or LinkedIn page or Instagram. So tell us a little bit about your experiences with that.
Well, first of all, I wish everyone would have a Hollywood type production for everything they do, but I understand they can't. And this year especially, I've become a real student of online streaming or just online media, what people are posting, because every brand basically spent at least a few months this year. Every company spent a few months this year. Really, all of their production was coming out of this or coming out of their webcams here. People like me were on the sidelines for a few months before things started to reopen again and we started doing production. And there are a couple of things I noticed. On the smaller stuff, I saw a client of mine working on posting some of their own videos. And I thought it was great that they were getting into the video space. They weren't really doing anything before. I said, it's great that you're starting to do that. But here's the thing, I saw it and I got to watch it. I couldn't really hear it because they were in an echoey hallway and I couldn't really hear what anybody was saying. And I reached out to them and I said, look, so great that you're getting the video. One suggestion is here's a $50 microphone on Amazon that attaches to any phone. And you can it's not even a clip on, it just literally sits on the front and it just kind of points at you and it'll make all the difference in people being able to hear you a little clearer, Also some lighting, we were looking at a project. I was actually working on a project in Pennsylvania, a little far away from New York. And we had a big CEO, big company CEO, and we were recording the remarks from the CEO that were going to be streamed later on. And what we noticed was whatever light we had was like something was happening with the camera and it was flickering and it was looking kind of bad. It's like, we have to fix that. Those are the little things when I talk about being watchable. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest technology. It doesn't have to have graphics flying around, be highly produced, but it needs to at least be clean and clear so people can understand it and they feel like they're engaged with it. The minute technical problems start happening with stuff, you kind of lose your audience.
Yeah, and you had mentioned before, really knowing what you want to say, knowing what you want to communicate, and knowing what stories you want to share with your audience. Help the folks listening on the webinar how they can work, I guess maybe more efficiently or work a little better hand in hand with their marketing firm. If a bank approaches you and said, Steve, we want to do a project together, what are some of the things that you could feed back to the people online listening right now and say, hey, these are the right questions to ask, or these are the right things that will help make for a better relationship with your marketing partner?
I think one of the things we really get into is, that we really bear down on, is what's really important to your audience. And I think we worked on projects together, Jay, and I think one of the things that I really enjoy about working with WebbMason is we really spend a lot of time in that pre-production before we start writing, before we start producing things. It's very easy for us to get caught up in what's important to us, the latest and greatest things that we've put into our business, because we put a lot of time and effort into them, and a lot of focus groups and a lot of task forces and things we've done, and we're really proud of it. But a lot of those things are expected by the audience and by the customers. If you are a bank and you've launched an app, that's really great to say, hey, we have an app. The truth is, a lot of banks have apps. So let's talk about what is your app going to do for your customers that they were waiting for? What's the thing that's important to them about you having that? Is it because, hey, we listened to you and we know you want this, we're bringing it to you? Are there some features in it that people in your customer base are really going to like? It's easy to get caught up in the, this is important to us, so it's important to them. And it's hard sometimes to step away from that. I think that's why you need kind of another voice guiding you through that process. It's really important to have someone who's a little disconnected from your company, kind of walking you through that. Because it's hard sometimes. You love all your projects and all of your content and everything that you deliver to a customer. You need somebody sometimes to help you prioritize.
Well, it's like your children. You don't have a favorite, or if you have a bunch of pets, if you have 3 dogs, you're supposed to have a favorite, right? You love them all. But maybe we don't want to tell stories about all of them at the same time. That's Great advice. We had Rob Bergfeld from ICBA on an earlier webinar, and he echoed the same sentiments. He said, find out what is important to your audience, and then work backwards from there. If you know what's important to them, you can craft a story around helping them because it's important to them. So I think that's really good advice. And if we touched on it a little bit earlier, if a community banker or a retail banker, they don't have a giant marketing team in house, right? Maybe it's only 2 or 3 people. What are some things they can do? And you mentioned YouTube, right? What are some other resources that might be available to a smaller marketing department?
Production wise, you're talking about production wise, or?
Yeah, production wise, and also from understanding maybe how to come up with content or with good storytelling. You mentioned YouTube as an area where that would be a good place, to work on that. And when you and I have worked together in the past, we've even asked questions as simple as, well, what videos do you enjoy watching? What videos do you think will resonate with your customers?
Yeah, if you want to start, that's one of the basic questions. What kind of stuff do you like? What impacts you? What's moved you? Look, I'm hard to advertise to, but when somebody gets me and I see something and I go, wow, that's pretty interesting. I'm going to find out, what did they do? Like, how did they get me there? So you look at kind of the content, how they got me, what platform they use, what did they say? How did they get me in there? Yeah, something as simple as, what resonates to you is really important. We sat down with people and they try to get right into the attributes of what they do. We have this and that. Stop for a second. We've shot some interviews and testimonials with community bankers and banks, and some of the most powerful pieces that we recorded, they talked about just their business philosophy. Why did I get into this business? Why do I do it, the right way, as I call it, the right, how we bank the right way. What do we consider that? Those having that, I think Jay, you said something earlier about a term that was really great, like kind of mission focused. You talk about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your mission and what you're trying to do and trying to serve your customers is going to resonate with a potential client, a potential customer, far more than than the expected things that they expect every bank to have.
Yeah.
And your voice, whether it's like Wendy's or something probably a little more toned down, but if it's like that, that's going to resonate with someone a lot more than just regurgitating to them, the things they expect every bank to have.
Yeah, and I think Simon Sinek said, understanding your why, know your why. And I think that speaks to the same thing, understanding what makes your community bank or your retail bank special, and understanding what makes you different. And that's an easy place to start.
And just a practical thing, just to add on that, and this is
sure,
exactly in line with that, but something I just thought of is, being in the space is half the battle, right? And, if part of your strategy, if WebbMason has a strategy with people and you put something together where it's, X amount of posts and here's what we're going to do, have that calendar ready for the year, for the quarter at least, and pepper it in with events and milestones and things that happen every year. We know every February there's this event, we're going to be a part of it. We know in April this webinar is happening. We want to grab a clip from it because our president's going to be talking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things you can plan for, and you already have content there. And you'll realize pretty quickly, if you take time to put that calendar together, there aren't going to be as many holes in it that you really have to come up with content. There's going to be stuff that just happens organically throughout the year. You're going to pull from. And then that leaves you a lot fewer times to have to worry about creating your own stuff from scratch or having a big production done.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. So we talk all the time, the earlier we can meet with a client, the sooner we can get to the table to help craft and come up with a campaign or a program, the better. And we talk about that annual marketing calendar, and then a subset of that could be a social marketing calendar. And then there could even be a video marketing calendar where you don't need to be overwhelmed with needing to produce a dozen or even 6. You might be able to do 1 a quarter. Maybe you do 2 a year, and there's different campaigns that feeds off of. And then I know we talked about repurposing existing content. You know what you're going to talk about or promote, whether it's a product or a program or a person coming up next quarter. Yep. So you can be writing around a video for that. And I think that's really smart. So I made a note that annual marketing calendar is huge, and how video fits into that overall annual plan.
And I think setting up some best practices for how things are going to be packaged. And I use the word packaged a lot instead of now, to be watchable, to be branded. You don't necessarily have to have a sophisticated production on everything, but I think you need to be able to make sure that when people see this content, they know it's you beyond just it being on your page. Because sometimes you're going to do paid media and you're going to have, WebbMason's going to have a big plan set up for you, and you may be on someone else's page and your video is going to show up, or your ad's going to pop up. And the same company I was working for in Pennsylvania, they had a great piece of social media that was customer generated, and it was a little girl whose grandfather drove one of their trucks, and like when she saw one of those trucks, even if grandpa wasn't driving it, she just loved it and just got all excited. And they sent a couple of videos into them just thanking them for something they did on a normal transaction, and they did a great job packaging it. And part of what we recorded was kind of their case study for that. But they just did a great job of packaging it. So wherever it landed, whether it was on their own media or on paid media, or if like someone else picked it up and just shared it, someone said, "Oh, wow, this was so great. Check it out." You realize it goes back to them. And it opened up with like a little graphic with their logo, and then it had some other content. And then, it ended with kind of their contact information to get more info. So even though it wasn't a sophisticated production, it looked like one, and it was packaged really well to always reflect back to them, back to what they were trying to promote as brand attributes.
Yeah, I love that story. And we talked about that yesterday and even the day before when we were preparing. So it was a trucking or logistics company, but the video had nothing to do with trucking and nothing to do with logistics. It had to do with a little girl's experience and how that made her feel, right? It's storytelling in its essence. And we were looking at some videos together, and they don't focus on the products or the benefits or the features or the services. It's that experience and how it makes you feel. So that's a great segue.
Thanks. When Ford tries to sell you a truck, they don't tell you it has a steering wheel and four tires. Right. We know, we expect it. It shows you the truck flying up the mountain and towing something big, and everybody with a big cooler and a volleyball net in the back and jet skis and stuff. That's what they show you, because that's what you're going to do with it.
Yeah. And Coca-Cola doesn't want to show you what's inside soda. Coca-Cola wants to show you how much fun you're going to have if you open up a Coca-Cola. It's the same type of idea. Wow, that was a great segment. Thank you for that. And Courtney, I'll turn it over to you again. And if you want to offer up one more trivia question, I have the cell phone soap, so people can go ahead and sterilize their cell phones for whoever gets this one right.
Nice. Okay. I'll mix it up a little bit. So what year was the first beach ball invented? So we have different years listed. I'm going to open that up for 15, 20 seconds. Okay, variety of answers.
So I want to go ahead and get this one. I know the answer. I'm a product of the 80s. The 80s, best movies, best music, and maybe the best clothing. So I'm going to say that nothing happened before 1980. So the beach ball must have been invented in 1980.
Okay, you'll be surprised. So I'm going to end it here. And the correct answer, only one person got this right, and it is 1938.
All right, very good. I'm surprised that it wasn't 1980. I didn't realize that we were really even keeping track of things prior, but that's all right. Being a product of the 80s, I guess there were some things that happened prior.
Yes, so whoever guessed 1938 can use your email, please, in the chat.
All right, so one of the things I want to talk about before we run out of time is I'm very interested in some new ways where video is reaching different audiences, some different, other than what we've done, I guess, in the last year or two. Steve, talk to me about the future. I'd like to hear a little bit about TikTok and Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live, but I'd like to hear some stories about, you had mentioned earlier about live streaming events and how people can utilize video and certain components of video for live streaming events.
Yeah, live streaming's really come a long way this year, obviously out of necessity. And we've seen not only have platforms like Facebook and other platforms made great technological jumps in what you can do, with that platform, Facebook Live, things like that. We're seeing everyone from, the individuals to businesses to government agencies using it to get messages out. But we're also seeing kind of that platform really just exploding in what you can do with it. And I know what my company's been doing is putting together what are almost like television broadcasts, that we are able to quickly, remotely, either on site or completely remotely put together with, the full production package that you would expect from, a television broadcast for much, much smaller organizations who want to have a presence, whether it was an event that they weren't able to have in person or some other type of content for either, employee announcements or launch of a new product or some other type of helpful information. We had one organization, kind of bring it back to banking, do a talk about, at the time I keep talking about PPP loans, but back to business, grants and loans that were being given out, how they were able to do that. We've done stuff for the Maryland Tech Council. It's a group here that supports the biotech industry. You can imagine the biotech industry in Maryland, right outside of NIH, has been under immense pressure this year to perform and get things like vaccines and treatments out. Their events that brought all of those partner companies together have gone completely virtual. And we've had, the governor of Maryland, their CEO, and the CEOs of these pharma companies on talking about, all the things that are happening. They would normally have those meetings in person. What we're able to do now, streaming wise and video wise, is incredible. And the same thing can be done on a smaller scale. Your phone is not only a great way to capture content, it's a great way to put stuff out live. The thing I would strongly recommend, and everything you do, is have motivation behind it. What is your plan for this? Why are we doing this? How does this help us? How does it reflect back to the things that we want to make sure the audience knows about us? Instead of just saying, we're going to go live just for the sake of going live. Because we've done some that have been live. We've done some that have been pre-recorded, put together and polished. But there's a lot of ways you can do that. But the ability, I could talk all day about things we can do now. It's just unbelievable, how we can make take things that were either small conferences or small meetings and just blow them up into something really spectacular.
I think a lot of retail bankers and community bankers pride themselves on community events. Maybe it's something at the fairgrounds, maybe it's something in town, maybe it's something at a school function. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of lunch and learns in different size banks and different size organizations. What are some things that we can do this year, maybe this summer, maybe this fall, that can incorporate the hybrid, where you're hosting an event that not everybody can attend to because not everybody's comfortable, but they could stream? Like, give us a couple of examples of how we could use the hybrid.
Yeah, just what you said there. If there's like a lunch and learn or some other type of event you're at where you have people in there in person, whenever you're out in public now, that should be an opportunity that you're thinking, okay, how do we incorporate video into this, streaming video into this? Because we do want to include people who either may not be comfortable there, but even in the future, who just couldn't make it. Couldn't make the time there, but still are interested in some of your content. You're just casting a much wider net to people who can participate in what you're doing. And I saw an example this year, a city government, critical information about COVID closures, this was, a year ago, and the video looks great, and it comes up, and we can't hear anything. People the whole time, you can't hold. That's not good, So thinking about some of those things, making sure that you're watchable, you're clear, and you're clean, and everything's there. But there's no reason not to do that now. All you're doing is putting yourself out there for more people. Why not open your door to a wider audience every chance you get?
So in addition to comfort and safety, you're also increasing participation because people don't have to drive in, or maybe people could do it during their lunch break instead of leaving their office or leaving their home.
People are going to take every opportunity to be lazy. I hear stories now of people who are working in giant offices who are back to work but still Zoom calling each other because, man, I don't need to go to the conference. I'll Zoom call you from my office and you Zoom call me from your office. We'll just do it that way. The technology exists and it's going to be here to stay. There's obviously going to be a huge place for in-person meetings and in-person events. And there's nothing quite like being face-to-face with someone. But why exclude people who want to just casually drop in and maybe be interested in what you have to say?
Okay. All right, very good.
Again, everything like that has to be a strategy behind it. You know, how did we promote this? How did we get it out there? How are we advertising this to people so they know that we're doing this?
All right, well, let's take just 1 minute and talk about that, because you had said anytime you're at a live event, let's think about what we could do with video. Either we're going to stream it live during, or we're going to package it and be able to reshare it later. Similar to recording a webinar or recording a virtual conference or recording an event. And you were right, we do spend a lot of time, and we do pride ourselves on discovery and understanding and learning up front before we go into these. So maybe that virtual event, or maybe that hybrid event could also be part of the annual calendar you were talking about. We know we've got this event happening during this period. We know we want to promote this, and then tying that back into a bigger campaign.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think everyone would be surprised if they really sat down and did the discovery and had the time, spent a little bit of time to really calendar out that year. You'd be surprised how quickly you'd fill up, and you'd realize, oh, we're going to generate a ton of the content that we're going to put out there in-house. And there's just a couple of opportunities to do something really highly produced and really well thought out that we may put into the year or may not. But you're going to be surprised that, you know, I think 70% of that, 80% of that is going to be content that you're already doing. You're just not capturing it. You're not necessarily using it as effectively as you could.
Okay, very cool. I've got one more formal section, Courtney. So now's another good chance if you want to offer a chat trivia question or a chat contest, or just do another one of the ones that we've done in the past. Let's go ahead and give away another limited edition insulated coffee thermos.
Oh, sounds great. So our last question, how many hours did the longest recorded barbecue last? That's something I'm looking forward to this summer.
Oh yeah, and I was working on these with you the other day, and in Maryland, and especially in Baltimore, summertime means crabs, right? So we're talking about you know, crabs and an Old Bay and corn on the cob, and definitely barbecuing and grilling. And Memorial Day is right around the corner, so we're ready for that too.
Yeah. All righty. So, looks like
I'm stumped on this one. I wouldn't be surprised by any of these answers.
Yeah, I mean it's a wide range, but I mean I don't know. This is one of those Guinness things. In the copy, if you can read it, gosh, 1,000 hot dogs and 558 burgers. It's a ton of food.
that is a lot of food. All right, so I'm going to end it here. Steve and Jay, did you have an answer?
I would have guessed 80. 100's too round a number, and I would have guessed a big number, so I would have guessed 80.
I think it's got to be under 80. That's 2 weeks of barbecue. That's too much.
So the correct answer is 80 hours, and no one got that one right besides Jay. So I guess you can
I'm keeping this one. I'm keeping this one. But to be fair, yeah, to be fair, I probably saw the answers during rehearsals, but that's okay. I didn't remember it was 80, and I would have put them in chronological order. So shame on me for winning my own contest. I can't accept it. I'm related to the company that produced these, so I can't accept this prize. But thank you, Courtney. Thank you for the opportunity to win.
No problem.
All right, before we go, I want to do something a little bit different. I'd like to ask the panelists something that stood out, and basically one big takeaway from today's webinar. Now, Steve, you're our only hired talent, so you and I bounced some answers off each other. So this time I'm going to put Courtney on the spot, and then Courtney, right before we let everybody go, if you want to put your email back up there one more time. And then if you want to ask folks to play along with Steve and I in the rapid fire this or that, I would love to see the answers that we get online. So Courtney, give us one big takeaway that you think community bankers should have learned from the webinar.
I think it was great advice on how to get started. You can literally use your phone and get the additional pieces from Amazon or Best Buy. I know I've done that this past year when I needed to create content for my social media. So I think that's literally the best advice. It's inexpensive. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. And as well as I'll say now is a good time to do some of those YouTube trainings in case everything
Mm.
shuts back down in the winter. You'll have that knowledge in case you have to grab your phone or use something other than Zoom to create content. So I think this is a good time for a training.
So it's not even Memorial Day and you're worried about the winter.
Yeah,
You're planning ahead. You're looking at your annual calendar and you're planning ahead. You were paying attention. You were paying attention.
Courtney's calendar is very organized, 12 months out, everything.
Yeah.
yes. So that's something that's a goal for me this summer is to get more training for the actual virtual platforms in case we have to go back to it.
All right, well, let's do a 2-minute speed round. And for our folks at home, we'd love for you to participate and join us. And so have your chat ready and have your keyboards ready. Steve, Courtney's going to ask a question. You haven't seen these yet. These are unscripted. And then it's really simple. You're going to choose this or that. So you say either or, whatever she describes, and I'll go second. So you get to go first each time, and I'll go second. And we'll have our folks online join in every time they hear the question.
All right.
2 minutes. I'm setting the clock. 2-minute speed round.
Alrighty.
Like a game show.
Netflix or Hulu?
Oh, Netflix.
Netflix.
Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Dunkin'.
Dunkin'.
Steak or seafood?
Steak.
Steak from Burns down in Tampa.
City break or beach holiday?
Oh, beach holiday.
You're a city guy. I thought you would have said the other. I'm going to say a beach holiday.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
I'm a Pepsi guy since I was little.
Same. Infinite chocolate or infinite coffee?
Oh, chocolate for sure.
See, it's got to be chocolate. And I could live without coffee because I could get caffeine from tea or Pepsi. I couldn't live without chocolate. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's got to be some chocolate in the house.
Work hard or play hard?
Well, work hard out of necessity. I would play hard if I could.
So the answer's got to be both, right? Deion Sanders, it's got to be both. You got to work hard so you can play hard. One doesn't work without the other. And if you're only working hard, for all of our people that are watching the webinar, if you're only working hard, well, you gotta spend some time playing hard too. Otherwise, it's just not sustainable.
Nice. Looks nice or works well?
Oh, it works well.
Okay, so I'm the looks nice guy. And if you've ever seen me play golf, I wear the right clothes, I have the right clubs, I've got all the nice gear, and then when I take the club back, yeah, he doesn't play golf very well. So I'm the looks nice guy.
All right. Save or spend?
Oh, well, you gotta save if you're gonna be able to spend. That's kind of a both question, but I mean, it's way more fun to spend, right?
Yeah, so I think spend. And I think it's important that you align yourself with a partner who's a saver. And then you can balance each other out, either in business or in your personal life. Wherever your partner is, you try to find the opposite there. So to Steve's point, we can do both.
If I was gonna save, I'd probably get a CD.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the questions.
It was good. It was exactly 2 minutes. Very good. Good speed round. Well, I want to thank you very much, Steve, for joining us. I want to thank you very much, Courtney. Again, if you were the winner of one of our prizes, and even if you weren't a winner, we do have 1,000 or 2,000 more of the limited edition insulated coffee mugs. So everybody who plays along will get a coffee thermos sent to them. So thank you very much, everybody at home. We hope you had fun. Hope you learned a little bit.